Hi. I decided I was gonna try posting some reviews up here on YouTube, specifically heavy metal album reviews. A band that seems to pique a lot of conversation with black metalists, either negative or positive, is Dimmu Borgir. Since I'm pretty familiar with them, since they were one of the first black metal bands I got into, it would be probably a good idea if I talked about their new album and what I thought of it. The new album that I'm talking about is, of course, Abrahadabra, and it was released, I think, in September. The first news I heard about Abrahadabra was sometime in 2009. I think it was Shagrath. He said that the album was going to be fresh, and it was going to be darker, it was going to be atmospheric, and only now do I realize that he was just pulling all that kind of stuff out of his ass. He said he was going to try something different with the album, that Dimmu Borgir would be taking a new direction. And by that, I thought they meant they were actually going to try something new, rather than throwing fistfuls of money at a big orchestra and a big choir, and just hoping in vain that it did something effective. The album opens in typical Dimmu Borgir fashion, with a sort of symphonic introduction, and this time, as you would expect, they showcase their orchestra right from the get-go. After the introduction, the album jumps right into Born Treacherous, the first metal track on here, and right from the start, I can see a flaw that's I feel is gonna bother me for the rest of the album, and that is the orchestra is right on top of the production. The guitars are secondary, the vocals are secondary, the drumming is secondary. Dimmu Borgir isn't treating the guest musicians as guest musicians. This album is overtaken by the people that they've invited on. I don't know if they planned that or what, but everything else is just buried under the orchestra. I guess it's not an entirely bad thing, but the thing is that the orchestra doesn't ever do anything that mind-blowing or interesting. It's just, it provides the leads to the songs, but other than that, there isn't that much else to it. They're just kinda there. As for the actual band members, not even they're doing anything that's really standout or impressive. I'll start with the guitars. Now, Dimmu Borgir is a 17-year-old band, and I would figure that a 17-year-old band would be able to write good riffs, but what keeps happening is they keep going back to the square one, chugging. If chugging was behind them in 1995, why are they doing so much of it now? It's redundant, it's boring, and it's not very interesting. There is the odd riff that is more solo-y and melodious, and when those riffs come up, the guitar stands out in front of the orchestra and kind of takes center stage. And these are just about the only rewarding moments of the album. Then there's the drums. They are quite fast and they're pretty professional sounding, and it's clear that that Dore guy certainly knows his way around a drum kit. The only problem is they don't have that much range. They go for speed rather than style. And then there's the vocals. Oh boy, the vocals. Okay, I think Shagrath, to begin with, had a lot of energy in his voice, a lot of range in his voice, especially around Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. Right now, he doesn't seem to be able to go for 5 seconds without having to depend on some computerized, digitalized effect, and it just doesn't sound right with everything else, because keep in mind there's a big orchestra, and the orchestra and the choir sounds very organic, but then here's Shagrath doing this robot vocal thing that just, it clashes with everything else. By the time the album gets to the third song, it's just boring. Every song seems to just blend into each other. They all have more or less the same song structure, Not only that, but every song seems to be kind of a big mess of ideas that weren't used properly. It's like Dimmu Borgir had like a bunch of different ideas that by themselves sounded pretty good, but when they mixed them up and like just mashed them together, it just makes the music sound monotonous. And I think they need to organize their ideas better, because they just mix things now. That it seems like they're just mixing ideas, not really putting them in a constructive order. It doesn't feel like there's any clear direction in the album, and there are only like one or two songs that really vary from the other ones. Like the song Dimmu Borgir, for instance, it's quite a bit bouncier than the rest, and there's another one that takes a different tone. But other than that, it's very flat. It's very monotonous. Another thing I don't like about the album is it's not really new. The band kept saying things like, "Oh, this is gonna be so new," and "Oh, we're taking a different direction," and "Oh, look at us, we finally found our style. This is how we should play." But when I look at it, I can't help but feel that it's not that much different from In Thordi Diaboli or Death Cult Armageddon or Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia. There's not that much significant difference in the playing style. Really, there's not really that much new that they've tried. Like, even the orchestra, they had an orchestra in Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia, so I don't really see what the big deal was about having an orchestra this time. The only difference with the orchestra then and the orchestra now is that this time the orchestra is bigger. Another thing I think I should address is the whole thing about Vortex and Mustis leaving the band. Those two members, for anyone who isn't familiar with Dimmu Borgir, Mustis was the keyboardist and Vortex was the bassist and backup singer. I think the biggest difference with them gone is that there were a few moments where Vortex could have filled in with his voice, but instead they got either this screechy, amateurish woman to sing, and there is the odd guest vocalist who's a male, but their voice just seems sort of irritating and it doesn't seem to fit. And I can't help but think that Vortex's melodic voice would really do justice to the symphonic element of the album, and it's unfortunate that he's not around. As for Must leaving the band, I really don't see a lick of difference. Like, I don't think he was anything special. I think he was a keyboardist, and he wrote some decent sections, but other than that, he didn't stick out in my mind that much as a really impressive keyboardist. And I don't know who they were. I think it was Shagrath, maybe. I can't really remember, but whoever they were using on keyboards didn't really do anything more than you would expect from Mustis. In the end, I give Abrahadabra the rating of 32%.